You are watching In Your Interest, and time now to put the focus on Boeing 737 aircraft. A new alert has come in, and what does this mean for yours and mine safety? Let's take a look. India's aviation regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation or DGCA, issued an advisory concerning Boeing 737 aircraft jets. So what was the advisory about and what this means for airlines, passengers like you and me, and overall flight safety? Well, on the 7th of September, India's aviation regulator DGCA issued a safety recommendation for all Indian airlines operating the Boeing 737 jets, including major airlines like Air India Express, Akasa Air and SpiceJet. The advisory specifically addressed potential issues with the rudder control systems, particularly focusing on a component known as the Collins Aerospace SVO 730 Rudder Rollout Guidance Actuator. This came on the heels of safety concerns raised by the US National Transportation Safety Board following an incident involving a United Airlines flight. So why does this exactly matter? Well, the rudder is a crucial part of the aircraft that helps control its rotation about the vertical axis. Any problems here could lead to serious safety issues during flight operations. In fact, after an investigation into an incident on that United Airlines pilot's flight in February this year, it faced stuck rudder pedals while landing. America's Transportation Safety Board issued urgent recommendations regarding this very problem. Now, in response to these findings, the DGCA advised India's airline carriers to conduct mandatory safety risk assessments for their Boeing 737 in their fleets. They also stressed that all flight crews must be informed about the potential risks of a jammed rudder control system. This is essential for ensuring that pilots are prepared to handle such situations if they arise. Now, if you are wondering how this might affect your upcoming flights, well, Akasa Air thankfully has already assured passengers that there will be no disruptions to their services despite operating a fleet of 25 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. Similarly, Air India Express and SpiceJet, with nearly 100 Boeing 737 planes combined, are also adapting to these recommendations. Additionally, the DGCA has temporarily halted all Category 3B operations, those conducted in low visibility, until further notice. This precautionary measure aims to ensure safety while the situation is being assessed. And lastly, it's worth noting that this advisory is part of a broader pattern of challenges that Boeing has faced recently, including various safety incidents and a strike affecting thousands of workers as well. With the stakes so high, both Boeing and American regulatory agencies are under pressure to resolve these issues swiftly to maintain air safety for one and all. What does this mean for flyers? In India, we have Dr. Srinath Sridharan, policy researcher and corporate advisor. We also have Captain Amit Singh, founder, Safety Matters Foundation, joining us. Captain Amit, let me begin with you. Talk to us. We have about over 125 aircraft in India's fleet. What does this mean for Indian air carriers?
For Boeing specifically, this affects the Cat 3B capability, which means during low visibility, if you want to do an automatic landing, the system basically keeps the aircraft aligned with the runway centerline using this particular equipment, which was found faulty because of some moisture and problems with the bearings. So this is not an isolated issue. Boeing has now established, and the regulators have established, that there is a quality control issue with Boeing. Previously, there was a plug door issue wherein the door blew off. And I'll take you back to 1987 when the Boeing was recently introduced. They again had a rudder issue, after which there were a couple of accidents, crashes. People lost their lives, United Air, American Airlines. At critical flight stages, the rudder used to suddenly move, causing the aircraft to nosedive. And this was a design defect which Boeing knew about. It was later found out, and led to a lot of basically compensation payout and all. There were other issues with Boeing of the 747, wherein the center tank blew off because of faulty wiring. So Boeing has been having these issues right from the beginning. So it is not just a technical issue, it is more of ethical and a safety culture issue, wherein quality has been compromised for commercial gains. So that is a bigger problem. So what next, we don't know, because India as such does not have the capability to individually evaluate an aircraft, even though we are the third biggest market globally. So we should be having that independent capability, trained personnel who can individually evaluate, like we do it in the Air Force test flights, etc. But still, the civil aviation is suffering from lack of institutions wherein we do not develop our own manpower and think tanks. We depend mainly on the FAA, which is the American regulator, and EASA, the European regulator. So we have seen in the past how FAA has been kind of hoodwinked by Boeing, and they assumed that everything
Right.
was hunky-dory, but there were a number of issues. Even the 787, the batteries used to catch fire. Again, that was a quality issue. And in the US courts, they had some kind of an immunity from third-party manufacturing defects, but that was recently removed. So even though you may have outsourced these components to a third party, but still you as a manufacturer are responsible for the final product. So somebody has to take responsibility, and India has to develop their own capability to evaluate these issues so that we don't get more surprises.
Right. Dr. Srinath Sridharan, let me bring this to you. DGCA has issued this alert, this warning. One point clearly that Captain Amit Singh is making is that India should be able to have the capability to evaluate. But I'm viewing this from the point of view of airlines. Already demand is far outstripping supply. Not enough aircraft to cater to the people. At the same time, the pressure to keep prices in check as well. This is not really the best of situations for Indian air carriers, which is already India's aviation market, which has become largely a duopoly. Srinath, can you please unmute yourself?
Sorry. India is also one of the largest purchasers of aircrafts, and with so much of expectations on this, do we really have, let's say, the buyer's muscle, so to speak? What the captain spoke about. Do we have those muscle to say that geopolitical strength, especially to say that these are contracts that we need reinforcements, liability issues which are enforceable in court of law, not just in India, but if it is escalated to international courts. And I think that is something very, very important. The good part I see from the consumer point, if I read the advisory, is very simple. Cat 3 landing navigation, very hardly used by select airlines in India and in the winter season ahead. So if this can be fixed, let's say, at least by those airlines which are going to use that before December and January, when we get fog and landing in the dark, I think we will need it there. But otherwise, luckily, most of our geographies don't have the fog issues or the snow issues much where these landing is needed. Two, I really don't think in a duopoly you either have an American or a European manufacturer. India really doesn't have a say there. If I mean, a little cynical observation, if we see a large delegation from the US coming into India in the name of whatever you call it, saying we have bilateral conversations, you know that something is seriously wrong. And I think that's when India is putting pressure on. Until then, I don't think we have actually put pressure on. We have probably got financial returns out of buying those aircrafts, but not geopolitical yet.
Right, Captain Amit Singh. Right now, there are about 125, aircraft of Boeing that is, in the aircraft fleet. More will come in. What can airlines do at this stage? What do you think will be going on with the airlines at this stage to mitigate the situation? Because all of them, Akasa, SpiceJet, and Air and SpiceJet, have all assured passengers that there will be no disruption to their services.
Well, here the regulator has to come in and ensure that the fog season, especially December, January, February, goes smooth, and whatever component requires a replacement or repair, that needs to be available. Since India is such a big market, so we need to have that capability of pressurizing Boeing. So either to shift kind of manufacture in India, or put an assembly plant in India, like we have in China has basically tied up with Airbus. Airbus has put up an assembly line because they consume all the whatever comes out from the assembly line. So unless we have this capability and the regulator is monitoring it closely, it is very difficult to rely on a third party, and that too miles away. So we don't know their culture. It is totally different. So unless we have it under our eyes,
Okay.
more manufacturing and oversight. So that is what is the need of the hour, because next it could be some other component. So we don't know. So that is why we need more eyes on ground.
Okay, fair enough, Captain Amit Singh. Now, let me quickly ask you, Dr. Srinath Sridharan, what can you tell flyers out there, passengers like you and me, when they look at buying tickets, do they also check which aircraft are the ones that their flights are getting booked in?
Not really, Krishna. I mean, most of us don't even bother about what we know, and I think we take comfort that the airlines knows what they're doing,
Okay.
and there is a regulator and the Ministry of Civil Aviation which is taking care of it. So I think our belief or trust is on them, and not really about the type of aircraft or what is happening.
Okay. We will leave it at that. Srinath Chidhan, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. And of course, Captain Amit Singh, founder, Safety Matters Foundation, thank you so much for being with us here on In Your Interest. Before we wrap the show up,